Tonight, rescues at sea. Iron men and women save dozens from a Maroubra rip, while Bronte locals drop everything and run. They're now life-saving heroes. Denmark ready to crown our Mary as Queen and her husband Frederick as King. The push to double the number of random breath tests and end the deadly crashes. Inside the Houthi rebel attack plan, their clear message to America and Israel. People power sleepy suburbs now in a flight path, planes flying lower than ever. And Steve Smith answers the awkward question, what if it all goes wrong?
This is 7 News with Angie Asimus.
Good evening. Australia's elite Iron men and women have swung into action in dramatic scenes at Maroubra this afternoon, saving dozens swept out to sea in a flash rip. The mass rescue coming less than 24 hours after another group of swimmers nearly drowned at Bronte Beach, only saved when locals stepped in.
The Iron men and women had barely left the surf at Maroubra this afternoon when a mass rescue unfolded and all their training kicked in.
Lucky all of us were here still, and about 20 athletes just raced to save the day.
Rescuing 25 tourists from the water, they'd all been caught in a flash rip.
There was about 4 minor injuries, but they were checked over, nothing major, and all come back alive.
Last night that almost didn't happen as 4 swimmers battled Bronte's strong currents.
Oh, she's gone under. Surfers need to get over there.
Also swept out by a rip, they soon found themselves fighting to stay alive.
It was also rather confronting. I've never seen anything like this before.
Like seeing 3 or 4 people on the ground just like not moving.
Unfortunately, after hours, after 7 p.m, a group of swimmers entered the water, got themselves into a bit of strife. They was very lucky that a local resident saw it from his balcony and responded.
That was Troy Stewart.
When I saw so many people in trouble, I just got my board, and I'm surprised that no one died. Like, it was really touch and go.
Paddling to one man who'd been swept out 300 metres as other surfers joined the rescue.
He was just frantic and he couldn't speak English very well.
Saving 3 men and a woman in their 30s treated by locals and lifesavers who'd raced back after patrols had ended.
They were in serious trouble and, you know, he's a hero.
They were brought back to the beach. They had ingested quite an amount of water. Seconds make the difference with these patients, so we need to be able to get oxygen onto them.
All 4 were taken to hospital and luckily will recover.
Very scary.
Lifeguards say after-hours rescues and near misses like this are happening far too often, and they want people to realise that our beaches can't be patrolled 24/7.
Extending the hours longer isn't really the answer. We need to take responsibility and really adhere to the signage that we have on the beach, and when the lifeguards and lifesavers go home, it's a good time to come out of the water.
Bronte can be dangerous for swimmers. Yesterday they made more than 150 rescues here.
Every few nights there's someone getting in a rip. You know, we're going to lose someone.
These 4 have a few brave people to thank for making sure they made it out. Andrew Denny, 7 News.
In just a few hours, the woman once known as Mary Donaldson will become Queen of Denmark. Huge crowds are expected to gather in Copenhagen to watch the Hobart-born Crown Princess and her prince take the throne. But the ceremonies will be a little different to the ones we're used to seeing in London.
At Amalienborg Palace, the trappings of royalty, the changing of the guard. This the last of the reign of Margrethe II. It's a little like Buckingham Palace, but different.
You can see there's no fences, there's no long guards and high fences, so that the royal family is very close physically, but also to the people as well.
The Prime Minister, representing the people, will proclaim Frederick as king from the balcony of the country's parliament. Inside, he and Mary won't ever actually sit on the thrones, and there'll be no elaborate coronation like this. The last held here in 1657.
We have a society here where a lot of people emphasize very much that everybody should be equal.
Although some are little more equal than others as Copenhagen prepares to celebrate. Margrethe won't be here to see her son proclaimed as king once she abdicates. Her job is done, quickly returning to Amalienborg, giving Frederick and Mary a clear run. And Copenhagen's Australian community will be watching.
When there's a very special occasion, that the local bakers will produce a special product.
Paulette Christopherson fell for a Dane and moved here, just like Mary.
And I think she represents what Australians can be and where we come from, and she really does that so well.
Her life about to change forever. In the coming hours, Queen Margrethe will leave the palace for the final time as monarch in a royal carriage. Coming here to the Parliament to sign the abdication papers, she'll then leave in a car, allowing the new King Frederick X and Queen Mary to travel through the streets of Copenhagen in that same royal carriage for the first time as sovereign and consort. It'll be a very big day here in the Danish capital. It's still early, but tens of thousands are expected. They're putting on extra trains, extra police as well. It'll be a day when an Australian will become Queen, all part of a remarkable ride for the Tasmanian. Angie.
Hugh Whitfeld in Copenhagen. And Sunrise will have special coverage of Frederick and Mary's ascension to the throne tomorrow morning, crossing live to Copenhagen for all the festivities. That's on Sunrise from 5 a.m. A shake-up of random breath testing is to be considered by State Parliament, with New South Wales performing only half the recommended number of RBTs. A petition by the NRMA could now trigger official debate about a new road safety crackdown.
Lithgow, a final, fatal bookend to 2023, which recorded 351 road deaths. And while the occupants of 7 cars escaped Friday's tanker demolition at 5 Dock,
It just took off. We haven't had a great start to 2024.
So Parliament is now compelled to consider an NRMA petition calling for a doubling of RBTs after more than 20,000 people signed it. In 2022, New South Wales Police conducted 3.8 million breath tests, barely half of the 7.3 million Austroads suggests is best practice. Police have surpassed 6 million before, but that was when numbers in the force were healthier.
We need to address the recruitment shortages in the police.
Members have told the NRMA high visibility does work.
Oh, don't make me.
3/4 of its members say visible marked police cars and unmarked police cars are the best way of tackling bad driving behaviour.
Work of the men and women of the New South Wales Police has to be the tip of the spear.
The NRMA has petitioned the government only twice before. The first time was to change the speed limit on the Newell Highway. The second was to divert speed camera revenue into road safety programs. The motoring giant succeeded both times.
Angelina Kaufman doesn't have that influence. Yesterday we reported her petition to punish reckless drivers more severely still needs another 10,000 signatures. Both road laws and road enforcement will be discussed later this year at a government forum to address the road toll. Robert Ovadia, 7 News.
A light plane has crashed on the Gold Coast hinterland, claiming the lives of 2 men. The aircraft came down near a golf course at Boona in the Scenic Rim just before midday. The pilot and his passenger died at the scene. Police praising the pilot for avoiding people on the ground.
We are very grateful that even though we have lost 2 lives, that it was not far worse.
There's no word yet on what caused the plane to crash. A multi-million-dollar cash injection will help the Australian Border Force crack down on the smuggling and sale of illegal cigarettes and tobacco products. It's a major step up in the fight against the black market trade, which has led to a violent turf war.
Explosions puncture the nighttime quiet as a tobacco shop goes up in flames, the latest in a string of suspected arson attacks in Melbourne's tobacco wars, rival underworld gangs battling for control of the lucrative black market.
Illegal cigarettes and illegal tobacco are an ATM for the illegal activities of organised crime.
Last financial year alone, Border Force seized 1.7 billion illegal cigarettes and 867 tonnes of loose leaf tobacco.
It's only a matter of time before an innocent person gets seriously injured or killed in this war.
To prevent that, the federal government's investing $188.5 million to stamp out the illicit trade, boosting Border Force resources to disrupt smuggling operations and trialling new detection equipment. But retailers say successive governments are partly to blame for the problem.
With the constant excise increases over the last 10 to 12 years, that has seen an explosion in the illegal tobacco market,
forcing smokers to look for cheaper alternatives. robbing the Commonwealth of $3 billion a year in lost tax revenue, preventing the government from investing in a whole range of measures. Among them, perhaps more help for those Australians buckling under soaring energy, housing and grocery bills. As a new poll shows, 80% of voters aren't happy with Labor's handling of the cost of living crisis, with more than 2/3 not expecting any assistance in the next 6 months.
The Prime Minister's been obsessed on every issue but the important ones.
The government insists the most important, tackling inflation, is its highest priority. Rob Scott, 7 News.
A driver was lucky to escape injury after ploughing into the back of a traffic control truck in Sydney's southwest. It happened at Bankstown in the early hours of this morning. The car was badly damaged and had to be towed as crews cleared debris from the intersection. It is now 100 days since Hamas terrorists raided Israel in the October 7 attacks, triggering the war in Gaza. It comes as the US president delivered a direct message to Iran over their backing of Houthi rebels following a second US strike.
The drums of war deep in the Yemen desert. Allahu Akbar! Houthi fighters trample the American flag, vowing retaliation for this. A second round of US Tomahawks striking Houthi targets before dawn.
As they are probably trying to recalibrate and trying to think through next steps, we were able to hit approximately 16 locations.
Enough firepower to take out a quarter of the rebels' attack capability, according to senior US officials. The Iran-backed militia has threatened more chaos in the Red Sea unless Israel pulls out of Gaza.
This is a war against the axis of evil led by Iran and its 3 affiliates, the 3 H's I call them: Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis.
The US president saying he's delivered a private message to Iran. As the West combines forces to contain a regional conflict, Israel's still determined to bring down Hamas and bring home more than 100 hostages held captive for 100 days. Reminding the world of their plight with this, a replica Hamas tunnel built in Tel Aviv.
I can't speak, it was very difficult to... I can't explain the pain that we have here in Israel. Ceasefire now!
As pro-Palestinian protests are held across the globe from London to the gates of the White House. Ceasefire now! Israel marking 100 days of war as the death toll grows in Gaza. In Tel Aviv, Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
The dangers posed by artificial intelligence will be addressed by new federal laws. Industry Minister Ed Husic confirming a new advisory body is set to work with government, industry and academic experts to provide groundwork for new legislation.
It's very important to get this right. As most countries agree now, this is a potential, it sounds extreme, but I believe it's true, a potential risk to the existence of mankind.
The body will initially concentrate on high-risk settings such as law enforcement and healthcare. Furious residents warn the tranquility of the Blue Mountains will be destroyed forever when the Western Sydney airport opens. Locals rallied today, claiming the jets will fly so low it will sound like a lawnmower outside their homes.
In the Blue Mountains, the new airport has hit turbulence. The community fighting plans to turn sleepy Lyndon into a flight highway.
I've got 120 pages here of signatures all over the place.
I'll call it the epicentre for flight paths.
They fear peace will be rudely interrupted 24 hours a day.
I have already put double glazing in my house, and I'm now considering extra insulation to see what I can do to protect it.
At the moment, flights travel at 6,000 metres over Lyndon and Katoomba. When the airport opens, it could be as low as 1,200 metres. And the noise predictions...
It's just one below an alarm clock going off.
Similar sound to a lawnmower. Now, a lawnmower in my bedroom at 2 a.m. is not something that I can sleep through.
Lewis Morley used to live in Leichhardt.
But now the planes have chased me and there's going to be no curfew.
Flight paths everywhere will change when the new airport opens. Jets flying further across Sydney.
Flight path options are evaluated against safety, environment, efficiency and capacity criteria.
Residents encouraged to have their say before the end of the month.
Locals argue any aircraft noise is amplified here by the mountains and valleys, like a giant echo chamber. They say the only thing louder will be their protests.
It's a World Heritage protected area.
Serena Andaloro, 7 News.
Police are on the hunt for an arsonist after a blaze broke out at the Yaguna Community Centre this morning. Firefighters got the call shortly before 2 o'clock and arrived to find flames tearing through the veranda. They managed to prevent it from spreading to the rest of the building, but there was significant smoke and water damage inside. With fierce storms lashing the east coast and soaring humidity, it hasn't felt much like the long, dry summer we were expecting. The declaration of an El Niño had many bracing for a repeat of the deadly 2019 bushfires. Experts say what we're experiencing is unusual.
Parramatta skyline this afternoon, not exactly a sunny summer's day. In the city, a similar picture. 3 months into an El Niño weather event, many of us weren't expecting this.
Not great. Didn't expect the rain at all.
I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. I was expecting more dry.
In parts of New South Wales, rain and hail drowned out Christmas. There's been so much of it in Queensland, flash flooding has devastated the far north. A far cry from the El Niño we met in 2019 when catastrophic bushfires burned across the country. The dry heat experts warned of this summer, far less fierce.
Sometimes people see the word El Niño and think, oh, that means dry, hot summer. It doesn't always mean a dry, hot summer, and this year's been proved to be the exception.
Recent downpours somewhat disappointing for those chasing summer sun.
We are so sad because of the weather. We had so many plans.
And the weather will continue to keep us on our toes in the coming days, with the Bureau of Meteorology expecting above average rainfall for the rest of the month.
Still better than England. I mean, the rain in England is normally way worse than this, so we take it.
Grace Fitzgibbon, 7 News.
And with more weather details, Amber Laidler is here. Amber, we saw more showers across Sydney today.
Good evening, Angie. Yeah, and the radar is currently showing some wet weather rolling in over parts of northern Sydney and the Blue Mountains. But throughout the day, while we saw some glimpses of blue skies in parts, those showers were relatively widespread. Waterfall, south of Sydney, has recorded more than 50 millimetres since 9 a.m. Under cloudy skies, it was several degrees cooler today. Much of the city hovering around 27 to 29 degrees, though it was humid in parts. Showers do look set to intensify across Sydney tonight and tomorrow. Heavy rainfall is forecast with totals of up to 100 millimetres possible over the coming days. We'll have more details in your full forecast. That's coming up later, Angie.
See you then. Thank you, Amber. Winched to safety after a dangerous fall. After the break, the delicate rescue from the bottom of a waterfall. A killer mudslide swallows a highway, devastating details as the death toll climbs. A bone-chilling blizzard forcing much of America to shut up shop. Later, the key to unlocking a great credit score and fixing the household budget. And a wrong turn sparks panic for a tram driver and passengers. There was a delicate rescue operation southwest of Sydney this morning when a woman in her 30s fell from a waterfall. Multiple crews were called to mermaid pools in an area of dense bushland near Tarmore at around 8:30. Paramedics treated the patient for cuts and bruises before she was winched out by helicopter. A car has been struck by a tram after the driver attempted a risky manoeuvre in Melbourne's CBD. They tried to make a U-turn in front of the oncoming tram, putting the two vehicles on a direct collision course. The incident briefly brought the light rail to a standstill. An Arctic blast is sweeping across parts of the United States, bringing freezing temperatures. Some areas plummeting to minus 30 degrees. The deadly weather has prompted travel bans with thousands of flights cancelled and football games postponed.
A bone-chilling blizzard blanketing Iowa, 1/2 metre of snow falling in Des Moines in just 5 days as back-to-back storms smashed the United States. An historic freeze threatens the Republicans' first caucus on Monday with warnings for life-threatening wind chills.
It's going to be negative 15.
but I'm going to be out there.
Buying some salt for my driveway so it doesn't get too icy.
Thousands of flights have been cancelled across the country, travel bans enforced in Western New York. This is Buffalo, where the NFL playoff match between the Bills and Steelers had to be scrapped.
The NFL has agreed with our assessment that we need to postpone tomorrow's playoff game.
Tonight's playoff between the Chiefs and Dolphins will be the coldest in history, well below zero.
Greatness! Yeah! How bad do you want it?
Look at the ice circles forming.
More than 240 temperature records are set to tumble over the next few days. Up to 3 people have been killed in the storms.
You're talking over 80 million people under some type of wind chill alert.
Coast to coast, almost every state is being hit by wild weather. A huge storm surge inundating Maine. Coastal flooding in Portland saw water levels rise more than 4 metres. This driver makes a daring dash in Massachusetts, but doesn't get far. In the United States, Jacqueline Robson, 7 News.
A deadly mudslide has killed at least 34 people in Colombia. Dozens more were injured, with the search for the missing ongoing after a mountainside gave way under heavy rain. Vehicles were also swept away when a major highway was engulfed. The country's vice president reporting the sad news that most of the victims were believed to be children. Rescuers from across Colombia are now on the scene. A huge fire has torn through a warehouse in Russia. It belonged to the country's largest online retailer, with employees seen running from fire escapes and out of the depot. More than 270 emergency workers were needed to extinguish the blaze, which has been blamed on an electrical malfunction. There were no casualties reported. Millions of Australians missing out on extra cash flow. Up next, the simple test that could help get the family budget back on track. Taiwan's bold move, electing a president who China told them not to vote for. The battle to tame a raging inferno as oil tankers ignite. A swerving car that caused a truck and ute to collide.
And ahead in sport, what does he mean watching cricket's boring? Steve Smith tells us why he really wanted to open.
Beijing warned them not to, but millions of Taiwanese have gone to the polls to elect a pro-independence president. The Chinese Communist Party calls William Lai a troublemaker, but he says he represents democracy.
William Lai will be the man to navigate Taiwan's fraught relationship with China, which sees the island as part of its territory. The vote was close, but he won the majority required to become president and keep the Democratic Progressive Party in power. In his victory speech, the president-elect said it showed the Taiwanese people had not been intimidated by the threats from the Chinese Communist Party.
We're telling the international community that between democracy and authoritarianism, we will stand on the side of democracy.
His pledge to stand up to China is what secured Lai the presidency, but this election will provoke Beijing. Tensions are already high across the Taiwan Strait, where the Chinese military sends ships and warplanes to conduct daily missions around the island. The Biden administration will soon send an unofficial delegation to Taiwan, a move that could upset Beijing. A senior White House official says a face-to-face meeting is the most effective way to engage the new Taiwanese government and convey US policy in the region. Australia has sent its congratulations.
The government looks forward to continuing our important relationship with Taiwan, obviously in the context of the long-standing bipartisan One China policy.
Particularly in a troubling time, it's important that democracies are able to implement the outcome of the will of the people, and that's what's happened in Taiwan.
The world now waiting for a response from China, who labelled this an election between peace and war. In Washington, D.C., Miley Hogan, 7 News.
A man has been arrested over a brawl in the car park of a McDonald's in Sydney's southwest. 2 men, aged 28 and 56, were left with facial injuries after they were assaulted and choked at Rosemeadow yesterday afternoon. Paramedics treated the pair at the scene. A 49-year-old man has been charged with several offences, including assault occasioning actual bodily harm. He'll face court on Tuesday. A startling number of Australians are being blacklisted from bank loans and credit cards, and they don't even know it. As more people turn to credit to survive the rising cost of living, financial experts say understanding what you can borrow is more important than ever.
It can mean the difference between getting a loan or not.
A credit score is a number between 0 and 1,000, and it lets the banks know how trustworthy or reliable you are as a borrower.
And the higher the number, the better.
Roughly about 660 or thereabouts. Above that is a good score. Above 850 is supposed to be excellent, of which many people don't pass.
Research by Finder shows around 40% of Australians have a score under that benchmark.
And that's 40% that could end up having to pay higher interest rates or be rejected when it comes to looking to obtain further finance in the future.
71%, or more than 14 million Australians, don't even know their credit score. That includes 21% who don't know what it is or how to check it, and 9% who are too scared to check.
If you want a home loan, a personal loan, a car loan, then banks will assess you based on that credit score.
The good news is you can improve your score by consolidating any debts and reducing any credit limits you're not using.
It can take a couple of years for the credit score to be bumped up if you're going to improve it. So the sooner you can get on it, the better.
You can check your credit score online for free. Melina Saris, 7 News.
Firefighters have struggled to contain an enormous blaze engulfing 3 oil tankers and a semi-trailer in the US state of New Hampshire. Dozens of crews raced to the scene, spraying the flames with hundreds of litres of firefighting foam. No one was injured and the cause is being investigated. Dashcam has captured a ute smashing into the back of a truck in Queensland. It happened on the M1 at Beenleigh South. The truck driver slamming on the brakes after another car swerved in front. Witnesses say the ute driver was trying to merge into another lane. He was shaken but otherwise okay and taken to hospital as a precaution. Good news for chocolate lovers watching their health. Just ahead, the scientific study how it could help lower blood pressure. Our next generation of lifesavers put their skills to the test. An Australian woman proving the grass really is greener on the other side.
And soon in sport, the Socceroos win at the Asian Cup, but drastic improvement is needed.
Australia's biggest junior surf carnival took place at Manly Beach today. Thousands of nippers from across the country competed in dozens of races in the water and on the sand. The competitors were aged between 9 and 14. The National Championships, sponsored by 7 News, are an important early stepping stone for the surf lifesavers of the future. New research suggests eating dark chocolate could help to lower your blood pressure. Scientists in China have been exploring the relationship between dark chocolate intake and cardiovascular disease. They believe natural compounds found in the chocolate can prevent clots and improve blood flow, contributing to a person's overall heart health. An Australian woman has won a dubious title as the owner of the world's ugliest lawn. The Tasmanian made the international headlines, and the best part is she achieved the accolade by doing absolutely nothing.
Like sands through the hourglass, so were the weeds in Kathleen Murray's lawn.
Life happens while you're busy making other plans, doesn't it?
She certainly never planned on this.
One woman in Tasmania has been crowned the winner of the first ever, get this, world's ugliest lawn competition.
Soil drier than an outback creek bed, weeds as high as your waist, and sand you can sink your toes into. This backyard ticks every box, but success didn't come overnight. It all started when she got a divorce.
My lawn stopped being mowed when a certain person left with the lawnmower.
It doesn't help that she lives in a rain shadow and that the soil is naturally poor.
Then there's the bandicoots.
When the husband and his mower moved out, the tiny marsupials moved in and started exploring above and below ground.
They've been basically terraforming my backyard to the time when bandicoots ruled the earth.
So when she heard of an international contest to find the world's ugliest lawn and a campaign for water conservation, she jumped at it.
It means I will no longer maybe have to make up excuses for why my lawn looks like this.
Now she's won international fame, Kathleen has no plans to change a thing, even though she admits her neighbours managed to have lovely lawns.
Unlike me, they have both a husband and a lawnmower, but I haven't felt the need to upgrade to a newer model yet of either.
Nick Etchells, 7 News.
It's quite an achievement. Well, sumo superstars bound for Sydney, still to come, larger than life and not to be missed. Meet the wrestling royalty, ready to convert Aussies to their sporting religion. Don't miss that story soon on 7 News. First, Matt is here with sport. Matt, so close to a classic Australian Open start today.
The old Aussie battler to the 5th set had us hanging on there, Angie, all afternoon. Good evening. Our Grand Slam's first Sunday start, but the big guns are still to come. All today's sport next. Also, Steve Smith answers all the questions on why he wanted to open and what if it all goes wrong. And Taylor Swift nearly braves the cold, minus 20 degrees, and they still went on in the NFL playoffs. There was one awkward question to ask Steve Smith. What if this move to opener goes horribly wrong? Australia's batting champion hasn't even contemplated it before a fresh start he needed to reinvigorate his great career on Wednesday.
A Test cricket mismatch suddenly has intense interest due to one move. Steve Smith, the modern Bradman, from number 4 to opener.
I don't like waiting to bat, like I never really have, and I actually don't like watching cricket that much, believe it or not. I prefer to be out there batting, so gets a bit boring sitting there.
Waiting for his mate Marnus and the negative tactics cooked up to stop Smith had become a drag. He started dropping hints to selectors in the last Ashes series. Said after Davey's done, I'm actually keen to get up there, and I don't think they sort of took me seriously until I got to Sydney, and I was like, no, I'm actually being genuine here. The West Indies did remove him for a duck in Adelaide last summer and sense opportunity.
It's nice that it's not two left-handers, we have a right and a left now, so maybe Zari could get Steve Smith pretty early, or even Kemar Roach, you never know.
It could get awkward if Smith doesn't fire and Cameron Green takes ownership at number 4.
No, I don't like thinking that way, so I don't want to think negative thoughts at all, so yeah, you can have your opinion on that.
The Windies are the big worry. Sean Tate's passing on local knowledge, Brian Lara's with them too, inspired and pressured by memories of Calypso Kings, each time arriving with their hope and ours that this can be the start of their revival.
We talk about it every day, about getting back to those days, but it's a new era now, and we're just looking forward to making our own brand and playing that brand of cricket.
The Big Bash finalists can be locked in tonight, but Sydney Thunder can spoil plans for the Strikers. Last night, Melbourne Stars could have replaced Adelaide in 4th with a game in hand, but Glenn Maxwell, Marcus Stoinis and co continued a disappointing tournament, chasing only 138. Aaron Finch fell for a duck in his final game, but Jake Fraser-McGurk with 42 and 40-year-old Sean Marsh, 64 not out, led the Renegades to a 6-wicket win for Finchy.
A little bit embarrassing, to be fair, but it's nice recognition, I guess, to be here from day one.
Matt Renshaw fell for 1 as Brisbane Heat collapsed against the Scorchers. Perth will now play for Sydney Sixers for second spot on Tuesday night. Tonight's Thunder Strikers clash is coming up straight after 7 News from Canberra. The Australian Open started on a Sunday for the first time, feeling like the calm before the storm. One contender for Novak Djokovic's crown, 4th seed Jannik Sinner, impressed, while it was a close call for a young Aussie still living the dream.
The first Sunday start to an Australian Open, an early beginning to the King's title defence tonight. 10th seed Alex de Minaur on court tomorrow, allowing a new crowd favourite to take centre stage.
Oh yes.
Backwards cap, blonde locks and a double-handed backhand, Dane Sweeney, the spitting image of Leighton Hewitt, and a fighter too.
He gets there, gets it on the racket out, and then, hello, how you going? Oh, whoa.
His first Grand Slam appearance, always a tough ask, against 22nd seed Francisco Cerundolo.
Oh my, you're kidding.
Battling all the way to 5 sets, Sweeney ran out of gas. A win for the Argentine in almost 3.5 hours.
And he finishes it off with a ripping forehand winner.
22-year-old Italian Matteo Arnaldi next up for the winner of Alex de Minaur and Milos Raonic, dispatching Aussie wildcard Adam Walton in straight sets. His countryman, ranked 4th in the world,
oh, that is out of the
this world.
Jannik Sinner, one of the biggest challengers to Djokovic, cheered on by the Karota boys, childhood friends and his biggest fans. Straight sets over Botic van der Zandschulp, coached by Aussie Darren Cahill.
He's getting more Italian slowly, so we try to teach him. We try to teach him what kind of pasta is good to eat.
3 first-round exits last year, 8th seed Maria Sakkari cruised into the second round. James Manton, 7 News.
Graham Arnold's under no illusions his Socceroos need significant improvement if they're any chance of winning the Asian Cup. Frustrated by a stonewalling world number 102 India in last night's group stage opener, with Tim Cahill present, the Aussies laboured to a 2-0 win in Qatar.
Cross on Gurpreet, only touching into the path of Jackson Irvine, and that mistake allows Australia to open the scoring.
We're here to win the Asian Cup, and you have to reach for the stars. And you have to have high expectations and put those expectations on the boys.
The Socceroos face Syria next on Thursday night. And Matilda's skipper Sam Kerr posted a positive message from hospital as her recovery from ACL surgery begins. An away game at home started well for Sydney FC in the A-League's Unite round, but the 1-0 lead was followed by 4 straight goals for Adelaide United. Hiroshi Ibusuki scored 2, then set 1 up.
To return the favour, and it's in from Irankunda.
The 17-year-old makes it all look so smooth and easy. Ibusuki's hat-trick gave the Reds victory. Joe Lolly's 2 late goals couldn't prevent Sydney's 4-3 defeat and slide to 8th place. A late Jing Reese goal kept the Mariners in 4th, 1-1 against Melbourne victory. Watch very closely for Bernardo Silva's piece of magic in a cracking Premier League game between Newcastle and Manchester City. 2-1 behind. Welcome back, Kevin De Bruyne.
In a pocket of space. And De Bruyne takes aim and marks his return to the Premier League.
5 months out after hamstring surgery, the Belgian wizard scored, then set up Man City's winner 3-2. 1-0 over Fulham. Chelsea have 3 in a row for the first time in 15 months. In Aussie cycling, there's a feared, revered proving ground called Wollonga Hill. The men's tour down under centre point, it hadn't been included on the women's tour till today. 23-year-old Aussie Sarah Gigante produced an astonishing solo effort to win by 20 seconds and put the world on notice.
Super Sarah is the Queen of Wollonga and the winner of the Santos Tour Down Under.
I'm so grateful to everyone that kept believing in me, even when I didn't. Yeah, it's just so special. Yeah.
It's a huge result after injury, illness and unbelievably now the loss of faith from her previous team. Down to 5th, the Kings used their first Pink Hoops game for the McGrath Foundation to spark their NBL title defence back to life. Another grand final rematch versus New Zealand Breakers. Jalen Adams had 39 points. Sydney won 105-76, and calls for the coach and all the imports to be sacked can quiet down for now. And you have to admire the dedication of everyone who braved one of the coldest games in NFL history today, including Taylor Swift, to watch her man Travis Kelce. It dropped to minus 20 Celsius in Kansas City, 55 degrees colder than the hottest game Miami played this season. Water bottles froze almost straight after being removed from the fridge. The Chiefs won the wildcard playoff over the Dolphins, 26-7.
That's just the Arrowhead experience. That's Chiefs Kingdom. And I'm glad we got to get the win for them and didn't make them come out here for no reason.
In Buffalo, they've already had to postpone tomorrow's Bills-Steelers playoff, led by rookie quarterback CJ Stroud. Houston Texans thumped Cleveland Browns 45-14. Luckily for Taylor, it'll be much warmer when she's here for those concerts in next month, I think they might be, Angie.
I don't know how they did that. I don't even know what that feels like.
Freezing.
Impressive.
Freezing.
Thank you, Maddie. Well, an international sumo competition will be held in Australia for the first time in almost 50 years. Stars of the sport will compete in Melbourne before travelling to Sydney, giving audiences a unique insight into ancient Japanese traditions.
Festival Hall, famously shaken up by rock royalty. And now slammed by sumo wrestling royalty.
Hi everyone, see you soon in Australia.
Hiroki Sumi, 260 kilograms, 2-time Japanese divisional champ. Next Friday's headline act, determined to convert us to his religion.
It's really enjoyable for me to show sumo around the world, showing traditional Japanese culture.
Also coming, Rami Elgazar, 240 kilograms, Egyptian star of the American sumo circuit. You win by pushing your opponent to the ground or out of the ring.
When you see it from outside, you feel like, oh, just two fat guys push each other. No, you can find your way to win in just blink of your eye, like really quick.
Oh, he pushed him out, doesn't he? He pushed him out, yeah.
Melbourne fans love sumo on YouTube. Seeing it live, a dream come true.
If you hear the impact, the collision, it's like two cars hitting each other. You can hear the sound, you can feel the intensity.
It's a way of life, it's something to be celebrated.
And you appreciate the art behind it.
The history in this sport, you get really excited day after day when you know more about sumo.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Amber is back with the forecast. Now, Amber, how much rain's on the way?
Angie, up to 45 millimetres is forecast for Sydney tomorrow, but localised heavy rainfall could see totals of more than 100 millimetres in parts. We've got all the details next.
Australia is set to welcome our new Queen. Join Sunrise for the latest at the Royal Coronation.
We're live from Copenhagen for all the festivities.
Your front row seat to history is here. Australia's Queen Mary. The Sunrise special event, Monday morning on 7 and 7+.
Tonight's 7 News headlines, dozens of swimmers have been saved from a Maroubra rip a day after locals rescued 4 people from the sea at Bronte. An NRMA petition looking to double the number of random breath tests will be considered by state parliament. And Denmark is ready to celebrate its new king and queen, Mary and Frederick, to take the throne within hours. Now, here's Amber with Sydney's weather.
Thank you, Angie. Well, we are expecting more showers across the city this evening. There's a chance of a storm with heavy falls possible in coastal suburbs. Right now in the city, though, it is 25 degrees after that top of 27 recorded shortly after 2 p.m. We do have severe weather warnings in place across northern and southern inland parts of the state tonight, with severe isolated thunderstorms likely to produce heavy rainfall and damaging winds. But closer to home, a coastal trough and moist southeasterly winds are set to see showers intensify this evening and into Monday. The heaviest falls over the coming days are forecast mainly across the state's east, with totals of up to 100 millimetres possible across parts of Sydney. Further north, tropical lows along a monsoon trough are also maintaining heavy rainfall and storms across the tropics, with up to 150 millimetres forecast tomorrow in Darwin. Showers are also on the way for Canberra and for Brisbane. Totals there much less though. Melbourne 28 degrees under partly cloudy skies. Cloud clearing tops of 23 degrees in Hobart. Adelaide's expecting a sunny 34, a sunny 37 degrees on the way for Perth. Statewide tomorrow, once again, unsettled conditions are looking widespread. More severe storms generating heavy rainfall are possible in the far western areas of New South Wales. There's also that risk of heavy falls around the east coast between Coffs Harbour and Wollongong, so that does include metropolitan Sydney. Those showers are most likely during the morning and afternoon, reaching 22 to 23 degrees across the city's west. 22 degrees is forecast tomorrow along most of the beaches. On the water tomorrow, southeasterly winds are forecast to reach up to 30 knots during the morning before turning easterly and running at about 25 knots during the evening. So strong wind warnings are in place for the waters of Port Macquarie, the Hunter, Sydney and the Illawarra tomorrow. But back in the city under cloudy skies, we're expecting a top of 24 degrees tomorrow. As for those showers, up to 45 millimetres is forecast at this stage, with a chance of a storm in the early morning, possibly severe. We should see showers gradually ease into the evening, but wet weather is forecast to persist into Tuesday. An additional 25 to 30 millimetres is possible. Currently, the showers aren't really set to clear until late Thursday at this stage, with a return to mostly sunny skies forecast on Friday, but until then we've got plenty of showers on the way, Angie.
That is a lot of rain. Thank you, Amber. And that is 7 News for this Sunday. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening, and Sunrise is live from 5 a.m, full coverage as Mary becomes Queen of Denmark. I'm Angie Asimus from all the team. Thanks for your company.